Gaslighting. Imagine someone keeps changing the pictures on the walls in your home but denies doing it, making you question your memory. Gaslighting is just like that. It's a psychological trick where someone tells you your feelings, memories, or what you're seeing isn't real. It's like they're trying to flick off the switch of your reality, so you start to doubt yourself. This can make you rely on them for the truth, which gives them power over you. Love bombing. It's like when a storm of affection hits you all at once. Love bombing showers you with so much praise and attention that you feel overwhelmed and special. However, the person doing this often wants something in return. Once they've got your trust, they may start asking for favors, knowing you feel indebted to them for all the love they've given.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
Fearmongering. Imagine someone constantly telling you that a monster lurks outside, so you're too scared to leave your house. Fearmongering works like this, using scare tactics to make you believe there's a big threat out there. When you're frightened, you might not think straight and could look to the fearmonger for protection, which gives them control over your decisions. Guilt tripping. This is when someone makes you feel guilty to get you to do something. It's like when a friend says, "After all I've done for you, you won't do this one thing for me?" It makes you feel you owe them, and doing what they ask is the way to repay that debt. Shaming. Shaming is pointing out something you're embarrassed about to make you do what someone wants. It's like if someone says, "Only a bad person would do what you're doing." It hits deep, making you want to change your actions to avoid feeling ashamed. The silent treatment. Imagine asking someone a question, and they just ignore you, acting like you're invisible. The silent treatment is a way to punish you without words. It's like being put in a quiet corner, where the lack of response is supposed to make you reflect on what you've done wrong and come back ready to do what the other person wants. Victim playing. It's when someone pretends to be hurt or in trouble to get sympathy and help even when they don't need it. By acting like a victim, they're trying to make you feel sorry for them so you'll give them what they want without questioning if they really need it or deserve it. Triangulation. This is when someone brings a third person into the mix to create tension. It's like a friend telling you that another friend is mad at you, even if it's not true. This can make you feel like you have to compete for the first friend's favor or take sides in a conflict that doesn't really exist. Negging. It's a sneaky insult, wrapped up like a compliment. Someone might say, "You're pretty smart for someone who didn't go to college." It sounds like praise, but actually makes you feel insecure. This tactic is often used to lower your self-esteem so you'll seek approval from the person who engages you. Reciprocity. It's based on the idea that if someone gives you something, you should give something back. If a neighbor brings you cookies, you might feel like you should invite them over for dinner. When someone uses this as a manipulation tactic, they give you something small to make you feel a big obligation to return the favor, often in a way that benefits them more. Scarcity. Imagine a limited time offer at a store for a product that suddenly seems a must-have. Scarcity creates a sense of urgency because you're led to believe that something is in short supply. This tactic plays on the fear of missing out, FOMO, pushing you to act quickly and without too much thought, often leading to decisions you wouldn't make if you felt you had more time. The bandwagon effect. It's like when everyone starts wearing a new fashion trend and you feel you should too to fit in. This tactic relies on the idea that if many people are doing something, it must be right or good. The bandwagon effect is used to manipulate by tapping into your desire to belong and be part of the majority. Bait and switch. Imagine being promised a gourmet burger at a restaurant but then being served a plain one instead. The bait and switch tactic lures you in with an attractive offer or promise, only to replace it with something less desirable once you've committed. It's a way to trick you into a situation that you wouldn't have chosen if you knew the truth from the start. Pre-giving. Think of it as receiving an unexpected gift from a neighbor. It's a nice surprise, but now you might feel like you owe them something in return. Pre-giving is giving something first to create a sense of obligation, making it hard for you to say no to whatever the giver asks of you later on. Commitment and consistency. This tactic plays on your desire to be seen as reliable. If you commit to an idea or action publicly, you're more likely to follow through to stay consistent with your self-image. Manipulators use this by getting a small initial commitment from you, making it harder for you to back out of a bigger request later. Foot in the door technique. It's like when someone asks you to sign a petition and then, once you've signed, asks for a donation. By agreeing to a small request, you're more likely to comply with a larger one later. This technique works because saying yes the first time creates a bond that makes it harder to say no the next time. Door in the face technique. This is when someone hits you with a big, often unreasonable request knowing you'll say no. Then they follow up with a smaller ask, which is what they really wanted. The second, more reasonable request seems like a concession, so you feel compelled to comply as a compromise. The name door in the face comes from the analogy of someone trying to gain entry through a door. Initially, they make an exaggerated request, akin to trying to push the door wide open. When that request is denied, they retreat and make a smaller request, resembling a compromise or settling for a partially open door. The effectiveness of this technique can be attributed to two psychological principles: the principle of reciprocity and the principle of perceptual contrast. The principle of reciprocity suggests that people tend to feel obliged to reciprocate when someone has made a concession or compromise. By making an initial extreme request that is likely to be refused, the person employing the door-in-the-face technique creates a sense of indebtedness or guilt in the recipient. When the smaller, more reasonable request follows, it appears as a concession or favor, leading the recipient to comply in order to reciprocate the perceived compromise. The principle of perceptual contrast plays a role in this technique as well. When presented with two contrasting requests, the second request appears more reasonable and moderate in comparison to the initial extreme request. The contrast between the two requests can make the second one seem more appealing and easier to accept. It's important to note that the door-in-the-face technique is a manipulation tactic and can be seen as a form of persuasion that exploits psychological tendencies. While it can be effective in certain situations, it may also lead to feelings of manipulation or resentment if the recipient is aware of the strategy being employed. The door-in-the-face technique is commonly used in sales, negotiations, fundraising, and other situations where influencing others' decisions is desired. However, it is crucial to approach such tactics with ethical considerations and respect for the autonomy and well-being of others. False dichotomy. This tactic presents you with two choices, implying they are the only options when, in fact, other possibilities exist. For example, you're either with us or against us. It's a manipulative way to limit your options and control your decision-making process. The essence of a false dichotomy is the oversimplification of a complex issue by reducing it to an either-or proposition. It creates the illusion that there are only two extreme positions or alternatives, with no room for middle ground or alternative perspectives. For example, the statement, "You're either with us or against us," presents a false dichotomy by suggesting that there are only two options: complete alignment with a particular position or complete opposition to it. This oversimplifies the situation and ignores the possibility of nuanced or moderate positions that may exist. The goal of employing a false dichotomy is often to manipulate the recipient into choosing one of the presented options by making them feel that they have no other viable choices. By limiting the available options, the person or entity presenting the false dichotomy can exert control over the decision-making process and steer it in a specific direction. It is important to recognize false dichotomies and challenge them because they can lead to flawed reasoning and unjust conclusions. By accepting the false premise that only two options exist, individuals may overlook alternative perspectives, compromise, or more nuanced solutions that could better address the complexities of the situation. To counter false dichotomies, it is helpful to critically evaluate the presented choices and consider whether there are other possibilities that have not been acknowledged. This involves questioning the assumption that the options presented are the only ones available and actively seeking out alternative viewpoints and solutions. Scapegoating. When things go wrong, a manipulator might blame a person or group to divert attention from themselves. By creating a common enemy, they rally others to their side and avoid accountability. It's a way to unify people under false pretenses and manipulate group sentiment. Excessive compliments. Flattery can make you feel good, and when someone showers you with compliments, you're likely to let your guard down. This tactic is used to make you more receptive to suggestions and requests from the flatterer, as you may feel a sense of goodwill or a need to return the favor.